Okay, this is about as Canadian as it gets. I'm in the middle of a frozen lake and everybody's kind of cross-country skiing over there, and across there they're all playing hockey. So, great place to sit down and talk about alcohol stoves. Why not? If you like these videos, by the way, please subscribe to the channel and hit that like button, and it lets me know whether I'm going in the right direction or not. And equally, if you don't like them, hit the thumbs down, doesn't really matter. Oh. There we go, I'm happy now. Oh. I thought I forgot my tea bags, but I put them in one, you know when you're trying to be super organised and you put them in a special place and then you forget where your special place is. So I found them anyway, so I can have a cup of tea. Okay, so for years and years and years, I've always used a Trangia, and I've always been impressed with these things. They burn alcohol, it's like a spirit burner, but they burn incredibly efficiently. So a huge percentage of the heat goes into the pan and it will boil water very, very quickly. So these have always been my kind of go-to pans. I've had this one years. They're absolutely bulletproof. They're a brilliant addition to your cookware. The other thing is that they're light and they have the pan system actually built into the Trangia. So top part's like a frying pan. Then you've got your burner parts, and then you have your two pans like so, including a very nifty pan handle. So these have been my go-to kind of cook set forever, and yeah. So moving on to twig stoves, I purchased recently one of these things, which is a hoo-hoo twig stove, and it burns wood, and it burns in a way. I've got some footage from the spring when we've been using this, and it's not so cold. It turns the twigs to gas, and the gas kind of come out the top, and it burns pretty much like a conventional gas burner. They're very, very good, very, very efficient, and in the right circumstances you can get water boiling very, very quickly. And great product. It's extremely well made. I'll leave the to all these products, I'll leave the web contact things where you can pick them up from at the bottom of the page. And as I say, this thing's super well put together. Burns wood very, very efficiently, and you can get a burn going very, very quickly, making tea, cooking, that kind of stuff. Everything that you need is in the cook set. Now the problem is with these and any twig burner is when you are either walking in somewhere where your wood source has run out, typically somewhere like Mount Spiker the other day when Dave and I was walking up there. Once you get above the tree line, you literally run out of fuel. So that kind of renders your twig stove a little bit on the useless side. The other thing is when you've got prolonged rain, or your wood source becomes wet, or your fuel, and equally snow. The snow's quite strange stuff because it literally covers everything, and a lot of like for twig stoves is literally walking around, finding twigs on the floor, picking them up, storing them, that kind of stuff. So as you're doing your hike, you're walking along picking up the fuel for your next burn. When you've got a cover in the snow, you're having to scratch around to try and find that fuel source, and that efficiency of having a stove like this kind of depletes a little bit. So I was kind of thinking the other day on what's best for these. Now in the world of stoves, and I like stoves, I seem to have... They always used to pull the mickey out of me when I used to work back in Mission, that I was buying too many tents, and I have loads and loads of tents. I seem to be buying tents all the time. I now seem to be buying twig stoves all the time, and well, various stoves. Anything that's stovey, I kind of buy it. And half of that problem is Amazon, because these things are always sitting around that should I buy it, should I not kind of price ticket. You know, they're like the $35, and you think to yourself, $35, it's about 15–20 pounds in England. It's kind of a curry and a bottle of wine or something, and I could buy this. I could not have my curry on Saturday night and buy one of these stoves and have a twig stove for life, and your little cogs in your brain start going, and before you know it, you've got one arrive in the mail. So that's how I came by this thing. But then one of the other stoves that I've got, it's probably one of the lightest, easiest stoves I have, is this little guy, which runs on one of these little alcohol stoves. So I wondered if I could put the alcohol stove in the twig stove and have it as a multi-fuel thing. So when you're walking along and you run out of wood, that you can actually use a different sort of fuel, in this case alcohol. You could also use, if anybody's familiar with these are the little NATO Tommy cookers, as we used to call them. They run on hexi blocks. So could you use a hexi block in here and get a boil going? So I thought I'd come out onto this gorgeous, beautiful frozen lake today and see if I can get this stove boiling water using other fuel than twigs. So let's give it a go. Oh, I've also got this little guy this arrived the other day, another stove, and it's just a different sort of alcohol burner. So I'm going to give this little guy a run out as well. I'll tell you about that later on. So I'm going to put my gloves on because my hands are cold. So the idea is to boil a cup full of water and see how long it takes. Okay, yeah, still filming. I'm going to try and do this in one take. What I might do is I'm going to turn this part upside down, because I figure the higher I can get, well, it might not work, but the higher you can get the flame, no, it's not going to work. Okay. Try it in that way, and the problem is with alcohol is you can never see it's burning, but that's going quite nicely. I'm going to see if Pour in half a cup of water. Put that on there. And then I'm going to pop I'm also going to set up the Trangia at the side. See if this burns any quicker. Problem is, of course, is ice. It tends to interfere with everything. Now, I used a Trangia the other day and it worked really well, so I have no doubts that it's going to do its job. And I'm going to give this one a little bit of a head start just to see and try and coax it on. Now, the thing is with the Trangia is, as you notice, everything sits in the windshield as opposed to on it. So this pan here, I'm losing a lot of heat through the sides. I'm going to cover it up, so don't worry too much about that. Don't think that's working. See if I can get this going. I know this is don't know if that's going or not. The only problem with alcohol is you can never tell whether it's actually burning or not. Yeah, it's burning now. It's going. He says burning his fingers. Okay, so pour a bit more water into this one. About the same. Love doing stuff like this. Okay, so I'm going to put this over the top of there because I want this one to work properly, and then we'll yeah, that's working. We'll see how it goes. And of course the other thing is, we'll drop a tea bag in. So I think I put this on a video before when I was going to Nunavut, when I ended up in Winnipeg. It's one of my great granddads, I don't know how many greats there are in there. He came to Canada when he was 14 years old and he worked for a navvy, worked as a navvy, and he worked as a chef for the Canadian Pacific Railway coming through. So he kind of settled down in Winnipeg, and he then came back to England, and that was the end of his kind of Canadian adventure. But we kind of grew up as kids on all these stories about my great whatever granddad in the Canadian frontier, and so I kind of feel a little bit kind of privileged at the moment that I'm the next in my generation, my ancestry, that's back here in Canada, and just got my Canadian citizenship, and yeah, very, very happy. So I've come all the way around the world. I've come nearly 9,000 kilometres just to sit on a frozen lake and play about with stoves. This one's starting to do very well. Just have a look, see what the fuel situation's like. Perfect. As I say, if I put the top on this other one, it would boil a lot quicker, but it does boil quickly anyway, so we shall see. Okay, it's looking pretty neck and neck. Looking good. This has got the same amount of fuel in there as well, give or take. Sitting on there very well. So that's near as damn it boiling. As is this one. Okay, so I think the Trangia has boiled slightly quicker, but there's not a great deal in it. And as I say, if I'd have put the top on here, this would have boiled quicker. But we'll see if we can get this to the boil while we drink a cup of tea. Okay, cheers. The other thing I've started to do with tea as well, when I come out onto like trekking expeditions and things, is put a bit of jam in there. Put a bit of like raspberry or blackcurrant jam into your tea. Put it into the tea, into the actual tea itself, and then when you're making it, it kind of melts into your brew and gives you kind of a nice sugary, fruity tea. It's kind of really nice. It sounds really bizarre, but it kind of works. So I guess other thing is just bring some jam with you and just stick a spoonful in your tea. It's kind of a different way of making your tea sweet. Yeah, so it's clearly not as efficient as the Trangia, but there again, we're using a fuel that's kind of secondary to it. So, but I have got a boil off of it. I do have hot tea. Okay, so conclusion is the wood stove, when you combine it with a little alcohol burner, becomes a multifunctional stove. The reason being is if you're out in the wilderness and you run out of wood and you run out of source of wood, you can use an alternative cooking supply such as alcohol. Now I'm cooking out here today, it's about -9, somewhere around there, so super cold. It's taking more energy to boil the water. I've no doubt if I was doing this in the spring, it's going to take less alcohol, and it's going to boil water really quickly. So but you can use these little twig burners as a way of boiling water with other fuels. You don't have to just have wood in them. So I'm really quite happy with that. It's been an interesting afternoon. I've got a couple of cups of tea from it. So all's good with the world, and we'll see you next time. If you like these videos, by the way, please subscribe to the channel and hit that like button, and it lets me know whether I'm going in the right direction or not. And equally, if you don't like them, hit the thumbs down, doesn't really matter. But yeah, if you like these, then please hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time for something wild, wacky, and hopefully not as cold. Cheers.